Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's topic, Corrective Actions. My name is Glenn Clark, aka the ISO Guy, and today we are going to take a look at a topic that can have a huge impact on the performance of your management system, as it will be the biggest factor in determining if you learn from your mistakes or if you're destined to repeat them. So, what causes the need for a corrective action? Corrective actions are the response to undesirable, unplanned events where something occurred that you want to prevent from reoccurring in the future. They typically come from three areas. Number one, incidents. This could be the making of a defective product, or a security breach, or an injury. Number two, they could come from an observation of something not being done the way it is supposed to be done. Note that you don't have to wait for something negative to happen as a result of the observation. The point is to catch the potential issue as early as possible. And number three, corrective actions commonly stem from the results of an audit. Many companies still use preventative actions, which is where you proactively take actions to avoid potential problems. But as these have been removed from most of today's ISO standards, we will not touch on them any further. It is easiest to explain corrective actions by working through an example. In our case, someone has propped open a door to a secure location in our facility, in violation of our policies. Corrective actions are oftentimes a multi-stage process where we first need to resolve the immediate issue, in our case closing the open door, and taking any immediate action required to make sure the problem does not reoccur while we investigate the root cause of why the door was left open in the first place. Without accurately determining the root cause of the problem, we are just guessing at the cause and are much more likely to repeat the issue. The most common method for conducting a root cause analysis is the 5 why method. This is where we continue asking why something occurred until we determine the root cause. You may not always need to get to the 5th why, and in some cases you might go beyond it. The point of the exercise is to make sure you are investigating deeply to find the systemic deficiencies and not just stopping at one of the symptoms that are a direct result from this deficiency. For our example, we ask, why was the door left open? And determine that it was left open as a maintenance contractor had to keep going in and out of the building to get parts from their truck. Why were they not being physically escorted as per the company policy? It was determined that the job took a lot longer than anticipated and the escort had to go home at the end of their workday. Why were they not given a new escort when they left? It was determined that the new escort was provided, but that person had other duties that needed to get done that were dividing their attention. Why was management not made aware of the fact that the employee escorting the visitor could not do so appropriately? It was determined that the employee that took over the role of escorting the visitor had not been properly trained on the requirements of the policy to know that they had to be watching that contractor at all times. Based on this digging, we can end up with one or multiple potential corrective actions. For our example, we may want to update our policy on escorted visitors to cover what to do when a transfer of responsibility is required. This may include the requirement to alert management if no option that meets the company visitor policy is possible. We may want to consider requiring our contractors to be trained on our company policies before they can begin work. We may want to consider educating more of our employees about our visitor policies so that they know what to do in the event that they need to take on that responsibility. Once we put a corrective action in place, it is important to go back and review if the measure we took was actually effective in preventing the reoccurrence of the issue. Sometimes it can be easily measured, such as how many defective parts are produced, to see the direct comparison following the implementation of our corrective action. Other times, like our example, it may be harder to measure. Note that simply stating that the problem has not yet reoccurred does not necessarily mean your corrective action was effective, which is why it is best to have a method of evaluating the effectiveness of your measure. The other common question I get is, do you need a corrective action for every observation of a nonconformity? The answer is not necessarily. You have the autonomy to determine what constitutes a nonconformity within your organization. Sometimes it will be defined by a threshold, and other times it can be determined on a case-by-case basis. The standard just requires the extent of the measure you take to correct the problem be proportionate to the impact of the problem. It is very important to get this balance correct, as organizations that turn everything into a corrective action can spend incredible amounts of time trying to correct very minor issues, and can oftentimes end up having a negative net effect on the organization. Conversely, organizations that are only generating corrective actions from the results of their external audit are either perfect or missing opportunities to improve. If after watching this video you still feel like you could use some support in developing a corrective action process that effectively supports your business, please reach out to the team at Seratos, as they have worked with many organizations to find the right balance in order to maximize the results for their organizations. I strive to bring you entertaining and educational material in a very concise format. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a like. If you didn't like it, make sure to share it with someone else, as I'm sure they will. Please comment below what you learned from the video, and let me know if there are any topics you would like to see covered in a future video. If you want to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe, and if you hate being the last to know, make sure to turn on notifications. Thank you, and goodbye.